Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome to my new series, Manifesting with the Divine. So today we're going to be talking about and getting into the introduction of what this series is going to be about. I've already hinted at it in my other videos and my pick a card readings where I've talked about... Did you hear that ding? I've already hinted at it, but essentially this series is created so I can help you tap more into your intuition and trusting more. So this is what I'm feeling called to share with you guys right now. So through me starting my channel, I started this channel in June, towards the end of June, and then weeks within, oh my goodness, what is going on? Weeks within me starting my channel, I decided to do pick a card readings, and it was just for fun. But the very first videos that I recorded and put on my channel was all about the divine plan. I was like, oh, okay, I want to tap into this divine plan because I've noticed the pattern. I've always had the same desires and same dreams I've had since I was a little girl. I have my 3 C's, creativity, communication, and connection. Those have always been important to me in my passion projects and my passions. So I realized that when I tapped into it, when I joined a public speaking group a couple years ago, that it unlocked a lot of things for me. And I essentially completely unlocked my throat chakra. And I was starting to get so much downloads, so much insight. But prior to that, my throat chakra was already working pretty good. I was already getting a lot of downloads and insight about the universe and divine knowings. So just a quick intro from the beginning. I'm not going to tell you guys my whole story, but I read The Alchemist and it changed my life. Prior to that, I always watched a lot of Oprah, and it just opened my heart because I was always searching for something more. I was raised by the ideology of like Christianity. My parents weren't like hardcore churchgoers, but they believed in the Christian way of life and they wanted us to attend church. But by the time I was 13, I realized that it just didn't resonate with me, and so I stopped going. And I was judged for that, but they would let me not go. So thankfully my parents weren't super intense and they didn't like majorly pressure me to feel guilty about not doing it. But I felt bad because I was like, oh no, is there something wrong with me for not wanting to go to church? But I realized that I was just calling in something else. My heart was too open to everything. And I wanted to know more. I wanted to know the universal truth. So I never resonated with just like one religion, one way of life. I felt like it's all kind of the same thing. And once I got that messaging that it's all one thing, that's what clicked with me. So years later, after I'd realized this, I was watching Oprah interview Pharrell, and he was like at the height of his career at some point. He'd released a happy song, and he was at this peak of success, essentially. And he was talking about channeling and how music is a form of channeling. And I was like, oh, I'm an artist. Is that a form of channeling too? And basically that's what I came to the conclusion, is that these ideas don't just come from nowhere. They come from somewhere. They're just in the energy, and you basically open yourself up to receiving them. So I was like, okay, that's why I have all these creative ideas and I love to tap into that energy. But he also talked about the book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And I've heard people talk about the book a few times, but I was like, what is that? And so I went ahead and I think I borrowed it from the library and I read it, and my mind was absolutely blown. So that book was like seriously initiated my first spiritual awakening, my first stage of spiritual awakening. And once that unlocked for me, I just saw 444 on the clock. Once that unlocked for me, I was like, I could feel it. So you know how people say like God's within us? I felt it. By the time I was done reading that book, I literally was like entering into these like really weird meditative states where I would get quiet and I could feel this like complete peace within myself. Like everything just lined up in my body. And I was getting so much messages, so much downloads. I didn't know that it was channeling, but I was getting a lot of messages about how the universe works and how God works, and I was seeing things very clearly. And so often we wonder why, like, how do we know so much? Well, if you really think about it, we're all old souls. A lot of us have been reincarnated time and time again. But it's our choices and our decisions that have led us down the path that we're currently experiencing today. So thankfully, what I called for with my soul, my heart, and I set the very strong intention for my past lives and this life, was to deconstruct my ego. So anytime I would proceed forward with an egoic desire, it would never work out for me. And I realized that that was what made me different. Whereas other people, they can just go make money, go get a degree. Those things made me very unhappy. It's like, it didn't matter what job, it didn't matter the degree or how many A's I was getting in school. I still didn't feel good enough, and I was still seeking the root of the problem. But it's that self-destructive, because it became very self-destructive, like where I literally hated myself. It was that self-destructive quality that brought me to my ultimate happiness and peace down the line. It took years, but ultimately it took me down a path where I was free, because I would constantly pressure myself to find the root of the problem and the truth. And it's unlocked so many doors for me. So since I've been on this path, choosing spirituality and getting more in tune with my intuition and trusting myself, I realized that I had been trusting myself all along. When I decided not to go to church, when I decided to pursue an art degree for the sake of it made my heart happy, when I decided to get back into communication and overcome my fears of talking to people and build my confidence, all of these, little bits and pieces of me making these decisions in my life have helped me to unlock so much of my intuitive abilities. So as far as intuitive abilities go, we all have them. We're all old souls. We all have this ability to tap into the divine matrix, to understand, to communicate with our guides, to communicate with angels, to really get the answers that we're so seeking. And, as much as I love to be the conduit or the vessel for which you guys can receive clear answers, because I do get very direct messages, speaking of DMs, direct messages about whatever questions I have, I can do that for you, but I'm creating the series to help you kind of tap further into doing it for yourself, because I'm ultimately, what's best for you. And that's why I always say, take what resonates and leave what does not resonate, because some of that is your story, but not all of that is your story. So what we're going to be getting into today is we're going to be talking about some of the initial things that have helped me to really unlock these intuitive abilities, because it's essentially been an accelerated process. But years before, I had been prepping. When I set the intention to not go to church, when I started journaling 9 years ago, all of that set the ground for me to be at where I'm at today. So one thing you have to acknowledge is you can't get away from the inner work. So some people, they want to tap into their intuition. Some people are very psychic and they're very intuitive, but they're actually quite unhealed. And so that's why their energies tend to fluctuate so extremely, because there's a lack of discipline and control, because there's no inner work discipline that's being had. So I feel like that was kind of somewhat easy for me to tap into, because I have very strict boundaries about what energies get to come around me. I'm not welcome to everything. I'm just not. And a lot of psychic intuitive people, especially if they're born super psychic and intuitive and empathic, they have no boundaries in the beginning. And so they go through a lot of turmoil at the start of their life just to learn how to, maybe within their 20s or in them starting to adult, create effective boundaries. So I'm going to tell you guys, that was not my story. My story was I had strong boundaries. I wasn't tapped into my intuition. I was tapped into my creativity, which is essentially intuition. But I was plugged into a very safe relationship with divinity from early on. I established a very safe relationship. So I don't have any regrets or horrible, memories about church or spirituality, because that wasn't my story. I actually loved church. It just wasn't enough. I was looking for more. I was looking for something that really connected directly to my heart. It wasn't the experience for me. So that's not my story, but I'm going to share with you guys how I was able to really tap into my intuition very effectively. And I have to just let you know, if you want to really hone in on it, discipline is key. You're going to have to do your inner work. You're going to have to do constant journaling and self-inquiry to understand who you are. That's why we're here, figuring out who you are. It's this self-inquiry that's ultimately going to bring you to the answers you so seek. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about, I don't know how many tips I'm going to share with you guys today. I have 4 listed, but I may be sharing more. I've already shared some. So the first one I want to talk about is set aside the worries in exchange for concrete truth and peace. So a lot of intuition has to do with trust. Again, I had developed a trusting relationship with divinity early on, but ultimately, when it comes to your intuition, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust yourself. And I'm at that point right now where I'm just like, okay, I trust it. I trust it because I always had a good relationship with myself. I was always giving myself really good advice about how to proceed forward in life. So I trust myself. Now I'm at that point where I trust it. I trust the intuition. I trust the guidance. But in order for you to access like clear messages, you have to set aside your worries. You can't have both. You can't be in a state of constant worry and then want to ask the divine for guidance and not follow any of it and not trust any of it, because then that means you're always second guessing yourself. So how are you supposed to proceed forward with ease? How are you supposed to manifest with the divine? You have to choose time and time again, even if your worries come up every time, to set them aside in exchange for concrete truth, the knowing, right? And so we're 2 parts. We're human and we're soul. So the human aspect of us is full of like doubt, insecurities, right? It has this brain, the mind that wants to survive, and it's always feeding to you all the concerns of the world, the unnecessary things. And then we have the soul, which is the knowing. The soul has already experienced lifetimes. Not only that, it knows divinity. It is of the divine. So it already knows the answers to your problems. And I already knew this. I didn't have a word for what this was prior to 4. I had developed this strong, trusting relationship with myself, but I didn't know I was speaking to my soul. And so when I was re-educated on like, oh, it's the soul that I'm talking to. It's the soul. I realized I'd been doing it for years, since I had my spiritual awakening, which was about 9 years ago. Basically, when I started journaling was when it happened for me. Like, it all started happening at once. I started journaling. I read The Alchemist. I had my spiritual awakening. It just all kind of like happened all at once. But I didn't enter into this state of like totally trusting the divine because I opened something up. I opened some kind of like intuition and abilities, and I started healing, like really healing. But I didn't trust myself. So even while I was being given the advice, I didn't take the advice. I didn't apply it. So I'm at a point in my life now where I'm like, I'm taking the advice every single time because it always gets me the outcome that I've been seeking. Okay, so number 2, tackle the root desire. Oh, why did I word it like that? Get to the root desire. Get to the root desire. So it's perfectly okay to admit you want money, you want fame, you want notoriety, you want a relationship. It's perfectly okay to acknowledge that you want those things. But the one thing I've always done with myself is I've always been honest. I can't lie to myself. I just can't. I can't say, oh yeah, I want money and just be like, leave it at that. So what is the root? What is the root? So for example, let's say you want fame, you want more attention, right? What you're really seeking is connection. That's the root. Get to the root. And if you don't know how to get to the root, start meditating with your soul and just be like, what do I really want? What do I really desire? So it might show up in fame. It might show up in your neighbors, your 3 neighbors who know you, and that makes you feel connected. But tackle the root and get to the root desire. 2, like beauty. Maybe you want beauty. You want to look good. You want to look good, feel good. Really what you're asking for is you want to feel secure in your body and vibrant in your body. That's what beauty is. It's a vibrant and like stable, secure experience of like, I appreciate what I have. I appreciate my body. So if you're just like, you're beautifying yourself up, but then you're still beating yourself up and you feel like you're never good enough, you don't look good enough, it's because you haven't focused on the root issue here. Money. You want money? And people say, oh, money is evil. What you really want at the core is you want infinite abundance. You want abundance to continuously flow into your life. You want the ability to be financially free, right? You want to be free to do things, explore, go places, because you're a free soul. You're a free spirit. Free soul, free spirit as well. Both. Your innate desire at the core is to be a free soul. You want to just enjoy life. So don't develop all this skill about money. I'm like, of course you want money, because money is one of the ways that we are able to experience freedom and tap into that experience of freedom. But you have to admit to yourself that you want freedom. So some people, they're like, oh, I want a relationship. I want a relationship. To me, you know what relationships are? It's a deeper connection to yourself. Because relationships are direct mirrors. So when someone's loving you up, you feel actually more in love with yourself too. Because they're reflecting back to you an experience you're giving to them. Because they're experiencing you with so much love. That's why you wanted that relationship. Because you wanted that reminder of like, I am of divine love. You want divine love. That's why we want relationships at the core. We want to experience ourselves being someone worthy of love, divine love. So it's not that the answer is be in a relationship or the answer is don't be in a relationship. It's just that relationships is a way for us to connect to divine love. So be really honest with yourself and reflect, meditate, and journal about what is the root desire that you so seek. Okay, so number 3, protect your energy and isolate yourself when you can. So my abilities unlocked without me really trying, because prior to that, I was hermiting like I'd never before. I stopped, giving my energy to people, and I just started pulling it back to myself. I honestly wanted to see how much I could hermit, because I was always a hermit, but I was curious to know, will I feel like really lonely if I keep more of my energy to myself? And I realized I wasn't. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. And I wasn't getting grumpy or angry, because sometimes they say if you stay in isolation for too long, it can make you, I definitely have to experience or be around people too. But isolation is just a really great way, and hermiting is a great way for you to tune into your own energy. So hermiting was just an effortless way for me to release anyone else's energy. So I don't pick up on their energies. So I didn't realize I was already very empathic. Like I already picked up on a lot of people's energies. I think we all are, but some people, they process it differently. I'm the type of person, if I'm around people, like it does make me grumpy. If I'm around someone who's like very grumpy and unhappy in life, like all the time, it does affect me. It does affect me. I can try to, usually when that happens, I have to maintain an even stricter schedule with meditation and be very disciplined with my emotions. But I noticed when I spend less time with those people, I actually needed less meditation. I thought that was interesting. I needed less meditation. I'm like, I can meditate for just a few minutes and I'm fine. I'm exactly the same amount of groundedness as if I were to meditate 30 minutes in the morning and evening, which I did for a period of time. So I'm like, I'm just as grounded and clear-headed when I meditate for 3 to 5 minutes and I spend less time around people. Interesting. So we can create boundaries, but people's energies do affect us because we're like, we're energies before anything. So when we're around their energy, it does impact us. But what the Ascendant Masters know how to do is they know how to transmute other people's energy. They know how to turn and alchemize other people's energy. So even if someone comes around them, they can kind of like turn their energy into gold somehow. That's a high level of mastery. And that takes time. So don't fault yourself for being in a bad mood when you're around people who are unhappy all the time. I'm like, it just affects you. You're probably going to have to create a stricter routine around meditation. Meditation is the reset. So I actually forget sometimes when I'm doing my readings to recommend meditation, even though it is almost like the ultimate cure-all for a lot of things. But some people need less meditation, some people need more meditation, just depending on their situation. If you're in a very unhappy situation, I would say you need to do at least 30 minutes a day. And split it up into increments if you have to. But you need to protect your energy. And the best way for you to protect your energy is isolation and meditation. For periods at a time. Okay, so number 4. Stop and meditate and right at this. Okay. Number 4 is at the start of your day, do a little bit of journaling. So I actually like to start my day out with a little bit of journaling where I tap into guidance. And what you could do is just start automatically writing and just say, set out an intention. So sometimes answers don't come clear if you don't set out a clear intention or question to the universe. So ask a clear question. What do you want to know? So you can say guides. You can call it spirit guides. You can call it spirit. Whatever resonates with you, you can call it the divine. You can say higher self, or you can say my soul, because that's really what it is. That's answering most of those questions for you. So you can soul of the highest lights. What message do you have for me today? So I just open up to like what I need to focus on, what wants to come towards me. So that's the initial part for me. I'm just open to what initially wants to come towards me. What do I need to focus on? What's important right now? And then I start asking some questions. So if I have questions about how to proceed forward with my work, or how to proceed forward with a relationship, or how to proceed forward with anything, finances, I just ask questions. And I see what comes back. And sometimes automatic writing helps because you hear words and they just start coming through. And you realize the words actually start forming sentences that paint clear messages. For me, I get a lot images, and the images create a story, and then I try to translate the images into words. Because it's like, a picture paints 1,000 words. Yeah, that's usually how my messages come through. There's like 1,000 words, but I'm like, do I have time to get all 1,000 words? It's usually really challenging sometimes. Okay. So that is the start. That is the initial lesson I want to share with you guys today. To tap further into your intuition. Those are some of the key things that I do for myself that has helped me. And then moving forward, I think I'll do maybe 2 more episodes. And then if people want to do more intricate training with building their intuition and trusting it, then you can work with me through one-on-one coaching. I was thinking about either offering a course or a class. It just kind of depends, but I'm going to do at least 3 videos in this series where I talk about how you can tap further into your intuition. But I think I tackled a lot of what was important here, because you have to acknowledge you can't run away from the inner work, right? You can't run away from the inner work. You have to do the inner work. And you have to distinguish and compartmentalize your worries. So if you have worries and insecurities about like money, for example, or this or that, you're going to have to set that aside, because you can't listen to divine guidance if you don't trust it. So like, what's the point of you learning how to tap into your intuition if you don't trust the guidance that you're given? So trusting the guidance that you're given is going to be key first. And then 2, think about your root desires. So again, getting clear messages has a lot to do with setting clear intentions and asking clear questions. And then 3, protecting your energy. You always have to protect your energy. This is just important. That was like one of the things I would have to say it made a bigger difference than I know how to account for, because I was already doing a lot of the other things prior to that, but it's like when I started isolating myself and protecting my energy that I had a lot of energy to give towards things, and I could hear, clear messages. as well. And then start doing and creating like a early morning ritual where you do some automatic writing. That's also key and very important too. So this information is just already available on the internet. I just wanted to gather it all and give it to you guys right now, because I'm like, if I had known some of this stuff sooner than later, the thing is, I don't think I was meant to learn it. I didn't learn it from people, not really. I actually learned it from myself. And the reason why I was meant to learn it from myself is because I was meant to trust it. So I trust it because I taught myself how to do it by accident. And I opened, my throat chakra, and I opened my third eye chakra. I did all of this on accident. I literally stumbled into this experience. But all the while, it's because my intention was clear. When I started this channel, I was like, I want to be a part of the divine plan. And God was like, oh, you want our help? Okay. So in the next lesson, we're going to talk more about getting help from God and guidance from God. Part of the reason why you're not getting the messages is because your intention with the universe isn't clear. You may have not decided yet that you can manifest with the divine. You feel like you still have to work really hard to create and manifest your desires. You don't trust that the universe can co-create it with you. And in fact, God's going to carry most of the weight, happily. So I'm just like, let's do this. I really want to help people unlock these desires if they want to. I was definitely meant to stumble into this because I am a natural teacher. Let me just acknowledge that. I've been literally talking to myself since I started journaling, so probably well over 10 years. My parents used to say I used to talk to myself all the time. So I was just meant to teach it to you. That's why I was supposed to learn it on my own, so I could trust the process and teach you to trust the process. And literally my story, my videos from the first video I created on my channel to now is evidence of my journey. So yes, I will happily help you through this experience. Okay, I hope you guys have a beautiful day or evening. Let me know if you're enjoying this series, and I'll be happy to continue it with you. We have 2 more videos we're going to do, and then it will be done. And I hope it makes a world of difference in helping you to open your eyes to what's available to you. Okay. Have a beautiful day or evening. Like, subscribe to support the channel. Bye.